So the Scottish weather has finally given up its persistent rain and it's time for a road trip, and no better time because I'm about to head away from the hometown of Kilmarnock and into smoky Glasgow because I'm going to be meeting up with two other fine gamers, two other fine YouTube gamers. You know what, I might just leave that as a surprise, but first I'm going to have to head to the bus stop because here in Scotland we either walk or we take public transport. Well, I do anyway. So let's get ready to jump on this bus, head up to Glasgow and check out exactly what the west of Scotland has got in store for you and me in video games. Now, I do understand that a lot of people do like the freedom of having a car, driving themselves, but for me it's quite the opposite because the freedom that I get using public transport, especially in Scotland, is the fact that I don't need to do the driving. I can sit back, relax, take in the scenery if I want to, but more likely I'm going to be sitting with my Switch, slaying dragons, fighting the Sith, or going on a completely separate journey within my head, leading Cloud towards Sephiroth to save the world again. And of course you've got to take into consideration that I make this journey at least 4 times a week, so that's about 2 hours every day that I can add on to my gaming time, and if you're a gamer like me, you know you have to fit your gaming time into your life wherever you can. So why spend that time with a steering wheel and gear stick in your hand when you can quite happily spend it with your hoary split pad? And it's not that I never tried to learn to drive. I mean, I can drive. If you sat me down in a manual car, I could quite happily start it up and make it go perfectly well. But this anecdote from back in my late teens, where my father was trying to teach me to drive and he turned to me one day and just said, "Look son, if I could put a gamepad in your hand, I think we'd have this sorted." And you know what? He was pretty spot on. Because if he could have found a way to gamify driving, then I would most certainly be driving today. But that said, I would be missing out about 2 hours of game time every day, and I don't think that would sit quite well with me. And who knows, if history was different, I was sitting in a driver's seat all these years. I might not be taking you on this wee trip of the west of Scotland to show you some of the sights over here and some of the wonderful places where you can pick up video games. Oh, but bear in mind this is Scotland and it will be more than just video games. There will be 1 or 2 alcoholic beverage pit stops on the way too. And as you've probably noticed from the footage, we'll pass through the forests of East Ayrshire, over the rather bleak landscape of the Fenwick Moors, and made it all the way into the smoky Glasgow urban landscape, where we're going to meet up with one of the people that are going to be joining me on this little jaunt and checking out one of the first and probably better places in Glasgow to pick up video games. Which, to be fair, unfortunately isn't quite hard because despite it being one of the most populous areas in Scotland, Glasgow doesn't really cater that much to the video game market. One of the positives about shopping in Glasgow, however, is that it is quite compact and altogether all the main transport hubs are all within short walking distance of each other and all the main shopping areas are also there. Now the plan was to meet both my companions here at Central Station in Glasgow, but there were a couple of hiccups with that plan. One of them was running just a little bit late and had organised to meet at the first game shop we were going to, and the second of these companions, he decided to get off his train at the wrong stop. Now let's be completely fair, it wasn't totally the wrong stop, it was just the second stop on the itinerary when it came to our little tour here. And when we finally meet up with him, you'll get to see what absolute numpty got off the wrong stop on his train. Now these small hiccups in the plan did leave me some time to come along to the Complete Entertainment Exchange and have a browse for myself before everyone else got there. And if you're a game hunter like me, you know you want to get in there first, you want to get in there early just in case someone spots something before you, something that you really want. So while we're waiting for the first of the companions to turn up, I thought I'd let you have a quick look to see what's on offer in the Complete Entertainment Exchange in Glasgow, Union Street.
His name is John Bondi.
And yes, it's a legend in his own lunchtime, or at least drink time, and it's John Bundy, first of the companions to turn up, and we went for a traditional Scottish breakfast of a Tim Hortons coffee and donut. But let's move on now to our first main stop. We're in the town of Stewarton, and there he is. It's the one and the only Gordon Gibb from Gibb84 Gaming. This is the absolute muppet who decided to get off at Stewarton rather than to travel into Glasgow and meet myself and John there. But all's well that ends well, and with Gordon and John both in tow, we head to the only place you're going to go if you're in Stewarton, and that is the one and only Forgotten Worlds. Now yes, I've been to Forgotten Worlds a few times now, but this is John's first visit. Gordon, of course, he's also from the west of Scotland, so he's experienced this wonderful place. So I'm going to take you in now and just let you have a look and see at some of the things on offer at the wonderful Forgotten Worlds in Stewarton this week. So with a splendid time had in Forgotten Worlds, it was time for another pit stop, and where else if you're in Glasgow, and we were back in Glasgow again, but the wonderful beer hall. And I do recommend if you're ever in Glasgow and you fancy a bite to eat or maybe a drink, then pop along to the beer hall. As you can see, John and Gordon with their steins. Not for me though, I like something a little bit lighter, so I picked up this wonderful Ichiban. A nice Japanese beer, and they lads can drink those 10-gallon mugs if that's what they want to do anyway. For me, I'll stick to the lighter Japanese lagers. We also had some wonderful pizza because we had to fill our bellies, I suppose, get the fuel levels up. Gordon with his boring pepperoni. It did have a nice honey sauce, so filled up with both beer and pizza, it's time to hit the streets again and move on to our next location. Now Gordon here had decided to take us to somewhere that I thought I'd never been before but actually had, and I'll let him do the guiding. Now I do know Glasgow fairly well, and if I had remembered that I'd been to this place before, I would have taken us there in half the time. But where we're heading for is the sort of middling Super Barrio. It's a bar cum arcade. Now don't get me wrong, we had some fun when we got into Super Barrio, but it's not probably the best bar arcade I've ever been in, and it's certainly not the best one in Glasgow. If you're in Glasgow, it's the only one that's open during the day, so this is where you might come. They did have plenty on display, plenty for us to do, and also a nice selection of beers, and I'm sure Josh over at Drinking Games with Josh would appreciate the Iron Brew sour that we had. And as you can see, there is a decent enough selection of arcade cabs and pinball machines, and I wish I had taken more footage of some of us playing, but the problem was there was a Simpsons game and we got stuck into that, 3 of us, and no cameras were on at that point. But there were some technical difficulties while we were in Super Barrio that did slightly mar the experience for us. Now don't get us wrong, wasn't all too bad, we'd go back again, but we had to then hit the city streets, try and make up for it, and the only way you can do that in Scotland is to hit up a whisky bar and try some of the wonderful whiskies that we like to export for better flavoured alcohol. Now believe it or not, the 2 Scots that were there, that's myself and Gordon, well, we're not really big whisky drinkers, and to be frankly honest, I avoid it at all costs usually, but John, the Englishman, absolutely loves his whiskies and decided to get in a flight. Me, I like to stick with a nice brandy, something that we would have traded for back in the day with France, but he did force me into one little taster of an interesting whisky. With the whisky consumed, it was time to head back out, head back to the Complete Entertainment Exchange where the main event was about to take place, the handing over of the social media Royal Rumble Championship belt.
This was my belt. I was the champion. I was the greatest. But no, I had to be given by a 10-year-old, your son. So take it. I want to see it. Oh, look at that. Oh, I love that. That's real cool.
So there you go, my friends, that was the West of Scotland video game road trip. I was joined by the wonderful John Bundy and of course the outstanding Gordon Gibb from Gib84 Gaming. And what did you think of that? Did you see anything in that video that would tempt you along to the West of Scotland where you could experience these things for yourself? Was it the selection of video games that you could pick up that would draw you in? Well, if so, drop down into the comments and let me know if there was anything that you saw in there that took your fancy. Or was it one of the many pit stops with maybe the occasional alcoholic beverage that really grabbed your attention? If so, let me know that too. Thank you very much as always for watching, and don't forget to comment because the interaction between you and me, well, that's what makes YouTube special. It does for me anyway. So thank you once more, and until next time, cheerio. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you check out the other ones on offer here? And also feel free to subscribe if you want to see more in the future.